All right. Good evening, everybody. We are back. It is the Safety and the Sportswriter show with Knoxville, Nate, and Big Joe, getting ready to talk to you about the world of sports, and in specifically the NFL, as it is the weekend we've been waiting for since last February. We are going to start up tonight with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers against the Dallas Cowboys, plus a full slate this weekend after what, and hopefully this slate will hold up like the NCAA did last weekend, which was a great weekend of NCAA football. So I can't wait for that to start. How you doing tonight, Nate?
Doing good. Excited about the NFL season kicking off. Enjoyed week one of college football, and man, I'm hoping that there's got to be a chance that maybe the Cowboys. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I'm actually cheering for the Cowboys and praying they can win.
I can't go that far, man. I just can't because I'm a Giant fan. That would be really, really against my grain to do that. But one thing before we get started on the football, because I want to get right into that, we have a lot to get to tonight. I want to send out a shout out, a hug to a poor guy who probably had maybe the worst day of his life yesterday. I just can't help thinking about it when I was watching Derek Jeter, brought into the Hall of Fame, and I looked online and there's Ben Affleck with J-Lo. A-Rod, can it get any worse for you, man, dude? Your girlfriend's with Ben Affleck in Europe, and your biggest rivals going into the Cooperstown to the Baseball Hall of Fame, someplace you can only hope your butt kissing right now can get you into, even though your stats do say you should be in there. It's known that there's a lot of guys that don't make it and don't look like A-Rod's going to make it, and that guy couldn't have been a worse day for anybody in sports yesterday than A-Rod watching those two things go on. What do you think?
I think that it couldn't be a worse day for the Major League Baseball in general. Who the hell is in charge over there? Who the hell decided to have Derek Jeter's Hall of Fame induction in the afternoon on a Wednesday in the middle of the week during football season? Only because I extremely, follow sports extremely closely did I even know that was going on. This is some guy that is one of the greatest players of all time, whether you like him or not, whether you're a Yankees fan or not. Derek Jeter is one of the greatest players of all time. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer, and no one got to see him get elected into the Hall of Fame. I mean, what a joke the Major League Baseball has become. And I completely understand why no one watches it, because the people running it are morons.
And, it's a good point you bring up, because the fact of the matter is, it's like they're almost trying to sneak them in. You know what I mean? This is something you would expect if they were trying to get Roger Clemens and Barry Bonds and hoping nobody notices. You know what I mean? But you got Derek Jeter, who, like you said, never did anything wrong. He was a champion from the day he showed up on the scene. No scandals. All he did was win championships and be the ambassador. Maybe boring to a point, but he never did anything wrong. He was what baseball wants out there in front of him. And Larry Walker, kind of the same thing. Larry Walker, was a very talented five-tool player. These two guys were controversy proof. And at a time in sports when you want less controversy showing, when you want to put your best foot forward, to have these guys go in, I never thought about it on a Wednesday afternoon instead of like a Sunday afternoon or a Saturday afternoon in the middle of the summer when nothing was going on. Makes no sense at all.
Yeah, why not have it during baseball season in the middle of the summer when people are juiced up about baseball, and have it on a weekend on a Saturday afternoon when someone can watch the damn thing? I mean, it's just a travesty that the captain gets inducted into the Hall of Fame and no one gets to see it, and half the people don't even know that it's happening until after the fact, because the Major League Baseball does nothing to promote it and is horrible about scheduling it. It's just a joke.
How about that weekend they were doing that Field of Dreams game?
Yeah.
Have that on a Saturday right after that Thursday night game, when everybody was so hyped up about the Thursday night game, they would have tuned in to see the ceremony. That would have made much more sense.
How about any time except Wednesday in the afternoon? I mean, do it at night on Wednesday. Do it, on a Friday night, on a Saturday night, Sunday afternoon. Any time except when they did it would have been good.
Yeah. Well, no, the whole thing is like I said, it was one of those things where nothing was big. No, it was. I mean, the speeches were okay, nothing spectacular. But I mean, two very good guys and three guys. I mean, Ted Simmons. I remember watching him growing up as a player. He was probably the third or fourth best catcher of his generation. So all three deservedly went in, and it was nice to see it. And they were all clean, which is another good thing. So, anyways, I just wanted to reach out to my boy A Rod and say, keep kissing ass, A Rod. Maybe you'll make it someday.
Well, you can't let A Rod in if you're not going to let Barry Bonds in, considering Barry Bonds is twice the player of A Rod and never tested positive or admitted that he did anything. I mean,
or was suspended.
Yeah, or was suspended for steroids. I mean, if steroids are really a factor in not allowing these guys into the Hall of Fame, then you can't just sneak A-Rod in and not allow, Roger Clemens or Barry Bonds or some of these guys that actually did something in the game of sport.
Yeah, the first ones that got to be denied are the ones who were suspended for it. There's just no, you actually were caught. The other guys, there's a report that's supposedly out there. There's this, there's that, but none of those guys, any action was taken on. A-Rod action was taken on. So,
well, yeah, and he tested positive for it.
Yeah.
I mean, there's never been, once they started testing and things, Barry Bonds never tested positive. I'm not saying that he didn't do it. I'm not saying that he, didn't do it more than other people. I have no idea, but, it's just a joke that, these little dorky sports writers get to choose who goes into the Hall of Fame anyway, and then they're keeping these guys out because of things that they because they don't like them. It's kind of a joke.
And again, one thing just before we go, because I don't want to waste more time on this, but Marvin Miller going in was a joke to me too. I mean, yes, he was a labor lawyer. Yes, he helped establish free agency. Yes, he did this. He made money off free agency. He took baseball seasons away through strikes and everything else. And yes, in the long run, the players became millionaires. I don't know how good he's done when you figure that we now have players like Lindor and Mike Trout who are making $40 million and not performing. I don't know if he's really helped the sport any. I also think, the guy who really should be in the Hall of Fame was Curt Flood, who gave up his career to fight the battle, but he's not in the Hall of Fame. You have this labor lawyer who nobody went to see him negotiate and really hurt the fans. It's supposed to be the fans' house. It's not supposed to be about anything else. It's for the fans to see their heroes. And Marvin Miller was not a hero to the fans. He was a hero to the players. He was a hero to, baseball maybe overall, if they want to say that, because he started the players union. But the fact of the matter is, he was a hero never to the fans. In fact, he abused the fans.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. And like I said, the people that are in charge over there, I'd like to know who they are so we could call them out.
Yeah. So anyway, let's get on with football. We got a lot of football to get to tonight. We're going to start out. We're going to make our predictions division by division, the playoffs, the Super Bowl, who's going to be our MVP, who's going to be our Rookie of the Year, who's going to be our Defensive Player of the Year. Let's start out in the AFC. Let's start out in the West. Let's start out with where, the team that has been dominating, Kansas City. We got the Chargers. We got the Raiders. And then we got the Broncos. I'll let you lead off. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is definitely still Kansas City's division to lose. They, obviously lost the Super Bowl last year, but that was mainly due to some injuries on their offensive line. I think that they, have a really good chance of winning that Super Bowl had Patrick Mahomes had any time to throw it. But, going up against that defense that Tampa Bay brought to the table with no tackles essentially was difficult, but I still think they're the best team in this division. Denver, made a change at quarterback, brought Teddy Bridgewater in. I don't know how much that helps them. Maybe gives them a little bit more stability, maybe, lessens the amount of mistakes, but I still think that I've got it going KC. I've got the Raiders as the second team in that division. In my estimation, I just think they've done enough to improve that defense to make them the second best team. I've got the Chargers actually third, and then I've got the Broncos fourth. But I've got essentially the Chargers and the Broncos. I've got them right around the same as far as where I'm thinking they're going to end up.
See, I'm gonna go a little against the grain there. I definitely think the Chiefs, hands down, win that division. I think the Chargers. I think although Herbert, I think is going to be fine. I think with the new coach and everything, I think they're going to take a little bit of a step back or stay kind of treading water and be in the middle of the division. I think the Raiders are going to have a tough year. I just Gruden. I don't know. I just think they haven't shown me enough yet. I know you loved some of the moves they made in the offseason, and I just think the Gruden way of coaching kind of grates on these players, and he's been around for a while now. Carr is a good quarterback. I think the Denver Broncos, I think Bridgewater is going to help them surprise people, especially. Here's my caveat. If Chubb and Miller are what they're supposed to be, and that defense is what it's supposed to be, Bridgewater is going to have enough with those weapons they got there. I think Denver's going to be in second place.
Well, Chubb's already hurt again and questionable to even play this weekend. And, Von Miller hasn't played in 2 years, so I have a hard time just saying that those two guys are going to be the same that they were a couple of years ago when they were one of the best tandems of pass rushers in the league. I haven't seen it in a couple of years. And, Bradley Chubb's already injured and potentially out this weekend. And, let's be honest, Von Miller is not a spring chicken anymore. So, although I like the defense and I like some of their players on defense, I'm just not sure that, that defense is going to be enough to carry that offense through that division, because that division is definitely pretty difficult. And, I'm looking at the Raiders, and they had no difficulty scoring points last year. I mean, they were the one team that beat the Chiefs in the regular season.
Watch that game.
Yeah, and they could have beat them twice if their defense could have stopped them ever. Especially going towards the end of the game, if they could have gotten one stop, they would have swept the Chiefs, which is pretty amazing if you think about it. And I'm just hoping that Gus Bradley's, a little bit better of a defensive coordinator than Gunther was. And, he couldn't do any worse, as that defense ranked last in almost every category. And they brought in KJ Wright. They've got Denzel Perriman now. They've got Corey Littleton, who should be a little bit better now that he's in the system. They've got Kwiatkowski, who can help with the pass rush. Plus, they brought in Ndakwe. They've got Jonathan Hankins, Quentin Jefferson. I do like some of the guys they brought in on defense. The only questions I really have is their secondary. Is their secondary going to be good enough to hold up against the passing game? But I agree with you. The Chargers didn't have a great season last year, and I'm not 100% sold on the coaching move and bringing Brendan Staley in, who's never been a head coach in his life.
Right. All right, let's move on. Let's move down to the South. Both of us think I think we both agree it's going to be a two-team race here. But I'll let you lead off again. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I do like the Titans. I think that the Titans are the best team just because of the running back that they have. I'm a huge fan and a huge believer in Derrick Henry, and it's pretty nice when you have a guy that gets you 2,000 yards by himself. So there's not a whole lot the rest of the team has to do when you've got Derrick Henry running people over left and right. Plus, I like the move of bringing in Julio Jones. I know he was a little bit banged up at times last year, but I think he's got something to prove. And I definitely think Julio Jones is an upgrade over Corey Davis. I hear all this noise about how Corey Davis is going to tear it up with the Jets. And it was like, you know what? He didn't really tear it up with the Titans. He had a pretty decent year last year, but he was single covered all the time because they were trying to cover Jonnu Smith and also A.J. Brown. So I think that the Titans are the best team in this division. I think that they should be able to, win this division. Although I like the Colts and I like their defense and I like their offensive line, I'm just not 100% sold on old Carson. Even if he does play and do well, who knows how long he's going to last. And I'm not 100% sold on their backup situation. So that's where my question marks come in with the Colts. And then, the Jaguars are a very young team with the first-time head coach, and the Texans are a disaster. So I think by default, the Colts are the second-place team.
I think I have to agree with you on every level there. I mean, I love Mike Vrabel. I loved him as a player. I like the fact that you can't take away that he learned under maybe the two best coaches of this generation. He spent time with Andy Reid and Bill Belichick. I mean, that's like spending time with Einstein and another great mathematician. I mean, you can't learn under two better people. And he understands the team. He understands what makes that team tick. I think you're right on Julio Jones because they didn't have a runner down in Atlanta where they could, where they could make the safeties come up. I think he's going to find room to roam down there, and I think that's going to help him. You can't afford to not have your safeties cheat up when you got Derrick Henry coming through the hole. So I think he'll find some room to roam down there. I think that's going to be very good. Like you said about the Colts quarterback, even though they went out and presumably got their man, him getting injured, having foot surgery already, question mark. Frank Reich is a very good coach, but like you said, Carson's only shown in his pro career 1 year when he was really the man. Everything before that, he was a rookie who was supposedly learning, and after that, he was a guy where you were sitting there going, "What is going on with him?"
The one season that he really tore it up, you have to remember he didn't finish it.
Right,
so,
that was an injury.
Nick Foles finished the season up and ended up winning the Super Bowl for them. So you can't just be good in a couple of games. I mean, there's 17 games now, not just 16. So, that's a factor. And I'm not going to get into, anything political on this show or anything about whether you should or should not be vaccinated, but he's not. And he's already been on the COVID list once just because he was, in close contact with someone. And that's something that could potentially, pop back up. With him, being an unvaccinated player, who knows whether somebody tests positive and whether or not Carson was near him. Maybe he gets it. I don't know. But the guy's already got injury history, and then you put that on it. It just makes me nervous for the Colts in their win-loss totals.
And the other thing, like we talked about as we were coming on the air, the shame of what's going on down in Houston. I want to just mention a couple of things here. Football down, you're in the South, so you know what football means to people down there. And to have watched this team that was, if you go back 3 or 4 years ago and you're heading in the right direction. And it looks like they decided, let's just blow it all up. Let's just get rid of every player. Let's make stupid moves. Let's not be competitive anymore. For no apparent reason, they have a quarterback of the future. They had probably at the time, although injuries have hurt him, and now he's up in Arizona. They had J.J. Watt, who was, one of the best defensive players. So you had all these things going in your direction, and then it was almost like they decided, it's too easy. Let's get rid of all these players. So you don't know what they're doing down there.
Well, let's go back just 2 years, and they were in the playoffs on the road in in Kansas City with a 24-point lead,
right?
When they did the fake punt, and then all of a sudden things started going the other way. But since then, things have really fallen apart, and lots of guys have gotten shipped out. But then the guy that did all of that, the guy that did the DeAndre Hopkins trade and really moved off some of these players that pissed off, Watson. That was the guy Bill O'Brien who's gone now too. So it just doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me what they're doing, and why when they were very close to being one of the contenders in the AFC, why they blew that roster up, and now why they're letting this quarterback hold them hostage. You tell the guy, we gave you $175 million. You either play or we take the money back. I mean, those are the two options that I would lay on the table, not just letting the guy sit around as the third quarterback while he's holding your team hostage. It makes no sense. And the way that the Texans are handling this situation show you why they've mismanaged the team pretty badly because they're mismanaging the situation just like they're mismanaging the team. It's an utter disaster.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's move on to the North. We both know this is going to be a very competitive division, and this is one of those divisions where it's going to be a shame because one of the three teams at the top is going to be left home. It's just mathematically they just can't do it because they're going to beat up on each other. Cincinnati, of course, we believe at the bottom. Joe Burrow, I'd like to but the biggest thing is for Joe Burrow to get through healthy. Hopefully, Cincinnati, I think you and I both agree, decide at the end of the year to get a real coach for him and take what they've got and build on it. But the biggest thing is for Joe Burrow to remain upright and healthy for this team throughout the year, and let's see how good he can be. The next, Pittsburgh, it's all going to depend on the running back. Can he take enough pressure off of Ben Roethlisberger? And as you said, you got the contract thing going on with Watt, and with the defense, will they do enough with their defense? But I have enough confidence in Tomlin to know that he's going to have a competitive team. Now the whole thing is going to be the injury-racked Baltimore against the Browns. And as we spoke last week, and we spoke earlier this week, this is Baker Mayfield's, I don't want to say make or break, but he's got to prove he's got to win some games. And I just am not ready to, as much as I like the kid and I root for him, I'm just not sure he's ready to win the big game. So I'm going to go Baltimore, the Browns, Pittsburgh, and Cincinnati, and the Browns will make it as a wild card.
Well, the contract situation for Watt is done.
Is it done? I didn't see that.
Yeah, right before we came on the air earlier this afternoon, they signed him to an extension of $112 million, making him the highest paid defensive player. So, TJ Watt is going to be out there doing his thing. So that's good. The issue I've got, and me, I've been bullish on the Ravens all offseason, and I've really been thinking they were going to make a huge run, but not anymore. They are decimated by injuries. I don't know if you heard, but earlier today, Gus Edwards went down.
I heard they lost another running back. I didn't hear who it was. So did
Marcus Peters, their best corner. So they had two guys tear their ACLs today in a practice when they've already had their first two running backs, or two of their top three running backs, J.K. Dobbins, done for the year. Justice Hill, done for the year. And now Gus Edwards, the only running back they had left, is also done for the year. So, bringing in Le'Veon Bell, they just signed Devontae Foreman. Those guys are not the same as Justice Hill, Gus Edwards, and J.K. Dobbins. They're not even close. And then, to be honest, I think losing Marcus Peters is even bigger. So, and if you recall a couple weeks ago, I made a pretty big point on this show to say that LJ Fort is done for the year and was lost due to a torn ACL. So these are big names on this team, and I think it's just going to be too much to overcome, to be honest with you. I mean, you can go out and sign guys all day, but as far as signing guys that are going to replace these dudes and replace their production, I just don't see it. And, you can talk about, the running back being they always talk about these days how the running back position is not as important as it used to be in the league. Well, I think it is. And I think it is huge when you're a running football team and your top three running backs are all gone.
I sometimes, and to speak to that, sometimes I think people don't understand what they're watching sometimes, and they don't understand that the running game helps a lot of facets of a team. First of all, it controls the clock. Secondly, it gives your defense a rest. And thirdly, it allows your offensive line to pound on the defensive line and help your quarterback down the line. Because those defensive linemen have big guys shooting out and beating on them for a while. And it helps them. It wears that out. It wears the other defensive line down. These people who thought the running game was passe and a thing of the past don't understand that the running game will always be important in football because it's how you master that clock. I still say we go back to when the Patriots were going for that undefeated season. I think the fact that they scored too fast hurt them in a lot of games. And, or over those times when they had Brady and they were explosive, it hurt them because the defense would just get off the field and they come back on. I think it's the same thing with Peyton Manning sometimes and other points of these explosive quarterbacks. The defense, these big 300-pound guys, get down and sit on the bench. Guy scores in 2 plays, and now he's got to go back out there and lug that weight around again. They wear down. So you need a running game to help your defense, to help the overall look and feel of your team. So, yeah, without a running game, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. And like you've always said about the Cleveland running game, it's healthy and ready to rock right now.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the biggest deal is if you, you're up at the end of the game and there's 4 minutes left. Well, if you have a really good running game, you can run the clock out. If you don't, you're going to be punting the ball back to the other team and giving them another chance. So that's the biggest thing I think about is that 4-minute offense. There's teams that have the ability to run it and end the games, and there's teams that do not. And I think that with losing 3 of your top 3 running backs, that's going to be tough pill to swallow. And then Marcus Peters is by far their best secondary player and their best cover guy, not to mention L.J. Fort, who sets the defense and sets the tone of the defense, being their middle linebacker. And him being gone, I think, is not being talked about enough. So, I'm really kind of feeling bad for Lamar because, he already had a lot on his shoulders. Well, now he's going to have to throw it and run it every single time because, I'm not sold on Le'Veon Bell or Devontae Freeman. There's a reason that Devontae Freeman's been cut and moved off of about 6 different rosters in the last 2 years.
Yeah. So what are you picking? Who do you got, the Browns or Steelers?
Yeah, I've got the Browns winning the division. I think they proved last year that they've gotten over the hump. They were able to take down the Steelers in the playoffs and able to show that they are a team that is on the rise. And I love the moves they've made in the offseason. I think they've gotten better. So I think the Browns are number 1. The Steelers are number 2 for me. And with the injuries, I've got to move the Ravens down to 3.
All right, let's go out to the East. We got the Bills, everybody's favorite. We got the Dolphins. We got the Patriots. And then we have the Jets. Go ahead. Give me what you got.
Yeah, well, I got the Jets last. This is a team that just, is not good. And, I think that, they're causing themselves a possible disaster by having a kid that, is going out there at first-time starter, rookie quarterback with nobody to help him out and nobody to teach him how to be a pro behind him. And not to mention the rest of the roster is not real good. And they've had a lot of injuries too. I mean, their pass rush was suspect to begin with. And now with Vinny Curry down and, with also their probably their best pass rusher, who I don't know how great he really was, but Carl Lawson was probably set to be their number 1 pass rusher on the edge, and he's done for the year too. And their middle linebacker, who they picked up from Detroit and signed in the offseason, Jared Davis, is hurt. So this is kind of a disaster in the making for the Jets. Their number 1 wide receiver, Jamison Crowder, is already out for week 1. So you know what, Sam Darnold may look pretty good against this team, at least for a week, because they're just not looking tough. And, I think it's going to be the Bills are the best team from top to bottom. And then I'm taking the Patriots. I'm not 100% sold on Mac Jones, but hell, I mean, they've got a tremendous backfield. I really like Stevenson, the guy they picked up in the draft from Oklahoma. I really like Damian Harris. I think he's a tremendous running back. And I like J.J. Taylor too. So I love what they've got going on the backfield. I think they're going to be a run-first team that sets up the pass with the run. And I think that the Dolphins are just going to get beat finally by the Patriots, and I'm picking Patriots 2 and Dolphins 3.
Yeah, I definitely am agreeing with you, and I told you I'm everything there. Bills are the best team in this division right now, and as I said the other night, the more I think about the Mac Jones move, it kind of makes sense to me because as we all knew that the move was going to happen, and the way after watching Belichick for years, he doesn't care about losing a couple in September if it makes him tough by the end of October through November through December. He knows that's when he wants his team to be good. And if Mac Jones is going to be that quarterback anyways, if that was his plan anyways, he might as well start it now. He might as well toughen him up now and have him ready. If he's not going to be ready, he wasn't going to be ready anyways when they threw him in there in October. So the fact of the matter is, get him out there, get him start learning. Like you said, he's going to find ways. Him and Josh McDaniel to use that running game. They're also Josh McDaniel doesn't get enough credit for the creativity he has in his offense. It wasn't on display so much last year. It hurt because of COVID and everything. Would have liked to seen him and Newton have a fair chance at each other to work with each other and stuff to see if he could have used his legs in a different way and used the run options and things like that. But the thing that always amazed me about the Patriots with Josh McDaniel, even when they had Brady, they used jet sweeps, tight end sweeps. They would come up with different and unique ways to come at you. And the fact that they have a three-headed monster at running back now, they've improved at tight end. And I think Josh McDaniel will have a litany of ways to attack people. And I think they're going to be back in the playoffs.
Yeah, they actually have some talent. That's you can be the greatest coach in the world, but if you have zero talent, you're in trouble. And let's be honest, I mean, they went all in when they had Brady, back the year prior. They went all in, and that makes sense. And they, had a really good season, and they did what they had to do based upon the status of their salary cap. And last year they, took a hit. They were in a bad cap situation, and then they had several guys, 8 starters, as a matter of fact, opt out for COVID, and that just killed them. And I don't really blame Josh McDaniels on the offense last year. They had no talent. They had no wide receivers. They had no tight ends. And the running backs, both of them were hurt most of the year, Damian Harris and Sonny Michel, and they were running backups out there. So, you can blame Cam all you want, but, Cam didn't have a whole lot to work with, and neither did Josh McDaniel.
All right, so we got the Chiefs, the Bills, the Browns, and the Titans, along with the Patriots and Steelers or Colts?
I had the Browns, and I had the Bills, and I had the Chiefs, and I had that's it. The Chiefs, I had the Titans, I had the Browns, and I had the Bills.
Who do you think is going to be in the AFC Championship game?
We have to see what the injury situation is going to be, but if I had to choose today, which I do, I'm going to take the Bills and the Chiefs.
All right, I'm going to say the Bills and the Browns. I think that the Chiefs 3 years in a row is a lot to get to the AFC title game. I mean, it's kind of, I know we've seen the Patriots do that and in their Brady Belichick run where they were in it every year, but I don't know. I just think they're due to come up a little bit short, and I think the Browns, Bills, and I'll take the Bills coming out of the AFC.
But you didn't even have the Browns winning the division. Now you got them going to the Super Bowl.
Well, yeah, you changed me with you changed me with the Ravens, man. I didn't know about that injury today.
Okay. Two injuries.
Two injuries. So I mean, I had to rethink on the fly.
Okay, that's fine. I'm just saying, man, you got to win the division, and now they're winning the Super Bowl. It's like, wait.
No, a lot of that is my heart, man. I do want to see freaking Baker Mayfield get something out of it. I just think he's good for the sport. I just think he's one of those guys that I don't know. I root for him. He's overcome everything. He's got a chip on his shoulder, the size of the freaking moon, and I hear so many people hate the kid, and it's just like, why? Every time, every person has told him he can't do it. High school, he wasn't recruited. Texas Tech, he walks on, becomes a starter. Oklahoma, he walks on, becomes the starter. Becomes a Heisman Trophy winner, a 3-time Big 12 quarterback of the year, whatever. It's number 1 draft choice. He's going to go down. He's going to go down. His first year, the Browns have their best record since 2004 or something like that. And then he gets them back in the playoffs. So I mean, every year, every time you sit there and you tell this kid he can't do it, he gets it done somehow. But he is yet to win the big game. That's the only.
Yeah, I mean that's my reasoning for picking the Chiefs and the Bills is I like Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes better than I like him. I like him, and I love the Browns roster from top to bottom. The Browns may have one of the top 2 rosters in the entire league. It's just I don't know. I have to see it to believe it. We'll see what happens. I love what they did on defense. The guys they brought in, I really like Jeremiah Owusu-Kamara, the guy from Notre Dame who is going to be a rookie this year, and I think is going to really improve that defense. I like Malcolm Smith. I like Jadeveon Clowney. I like Malik Jackson. I love everybody they brought in, but I just you got to go out and do it, and they got to prove it to me that they can get deep into the playoffs and get to the championship game and win it.
You're at heart an Ohio boy, and I've met some people from Ohio, and they said it doesn't matter about the Indians or the Cavaliers. If the Browns ever win it, that state will just close down. They'll just, that the Browns own that state more than anything else.
Yeah, to be honest, I was always a Bengals guy more than a Browns guy, just because it was Bernie versus Boomer when I was a kid, and I was always a Boomer dude because I loved Boomer Esiason. I loved Ickey Woods. I just I love those Bengals teams, and
James Brooks. No one talks about James Brooks.
I love James Brooks. I loved Harold Green, the other running back on that Super Bowl team. So. Plus, I loved Munoz. I think he's one of the most underrated NFL players of all time. I mean, I know he's a Hall of Famer, but people don't talk about him when they talk about the greatest lineman of all time, and I think you have to. And I just was always a Bengals guy. I never really liked the Browns, to be honest, as much. But, I think they're due, and I always, I'm an Ohio guy, so I always want the Browns to do well. But, I don't know, man. I've got a weird feeling that with all the hype and, they're expected to win this year. Last year they really weren't, and I think that's kind of how they snuck in. But they're going to get everybody's best shot, and they're not going to sneak by anybody.
No.
Plus, I got to keep Odell happy.
And you can't do that. No one can do that. All right, we'll switch over to the NFL. We'll start out in the East here. The East, which was the least last year, where it was basically whoever survived made it to the playoffs. Ron Rivera did a great job getting a team and milking it through the season and getting it to the playoffs. I know you're a big fan of him, and it proved out how great a coach he is, what he did last year through COVID, through his own sickness. Through it goes on with the owner. You never know what's going to happen with the owner and those craziness there. Plus the fact that they didn't have really a name or anything else. They had that, and we got the Giants, we got Dallas, and we got the Eagles. You started out.
Yeah, I don't think people understand really what he did last year. Let's break it down even further. He came in as their head coach, had no offseason, really had no quarterback to speak of, no star players, had the issues going on with the lawsuits that were surrounding the workplace environment going on, the name being taken away from the team, and basically having no logo and no team name. And then, just not the greatest roster situation in the world. Not to mention the guy had cancer and was receiving treatments throughout the year. And what does he do? But he wins the division and gives the Buccaneers, who won the Super Bowl, a hell of a first round matchup in the playoffs. I thought it was a tremendous coaching job and one of the greatest coaching jobs I've ever seen in the NFL. And that's saying something, but when you take all those factors into account, I just don't think you can downplay enough what Ron Rivera did. That being said, I don't know if I can pick them to win that division. Everybody is picking Washington, and I just don't know if I can do it. It's going to be tough to decide between those four teams because I still think that I still think that you're not going to get a 12-11 win team out of this division. I think somebody's going to win 10-7, and to be honest, I kind of am leaning towards the Cowboys at this point. I know that's crazy, but I'm picking the Cowboys to win it. I think they've got the best offense. I don't think they're going to look great tonight because Dak hasn't practiced or played all offseason, but once he gets going, I think he'll be fine. And I think the defense will be better under Dan Quinn, and they actually have a defense that matches their personnel now, which makes sense. But I'm picking the Cowboys, and I'm picking Washington second. I'm picking the Eagles third, and I'm sorry, but I'm picking the Giants last.
Well, this is where it's always tough for me. Of all the teams I grew up rooting for and loving, whether it be Notre Dame, whether it be the Mets, whether it be the Bruins in hockey or whatever, the Giants are the only team I really maintain that feeling for. So forgive me if it's the fan in me that comes out now, but I think they're going to make it to second place here. I don't trust the Cowboys. I think they're, for whatever reason, they shoot themselves in the foot, and I think they're starting out even in a bad way this year. So I think they're going to be in third place. I think the Eagles are going to be last, and I do think Washington's going to be first because of their defense and they have a good coach. I'm a little bit leery with Fitzmagic because the fact of the matter is, as great as he has, I don't want to say great, as good as he has been in the roles he has played, everybody forgets he has those few weeks where he screws himself up and throws 3 interceptions or something. Yeah. So, he'll sit there and he'll invigorate your team. He'll get you guys behind him, but he'll break their hearts just as well. So I'm going to say Washington because of their defense. This one is I'm just hoping for Danny Dimes and for Joe Judge and for Saquon that the Giants can become a playoff team this year and sneak in.
You're sold on Danny Dimes? You think this guy's your franchise quarterback? You think he's going to lead you to the playoffs this year?
I think he can, yeah. Because I'll tell you one thing. If you go back, people forget that Phil Simms didn't really take over as the Giant quarterback until he'd been around for 5 years, actually. He was benched. Jeff Bruner or Scott Bruner jumped in front of him, led him to the playoffs the first time. Even Parcells didn't believe in Phil Simms at first. He checks all my boxes, like I've always said. He comes from a small football school, and they were only going to be as good as he was. And I just think that having a year in this system, I think that he'll improve enough. And if I hate to say, 'cause everything is if at this time in sport anyways, but a healthy Saquon doesn't have to be what he was his rookie year, but to just give them enough. And with the weapons they've added, if Galladay and those guys stay healthy, they'll have enough. They showed last year their defense has improved, and I really believe in Joe Judge. I think they're gonna 9-8. I could see them getting in at 9-8.
We'll see. I mean, their defense is pretty much back and intact, but the offense, Saquon hasn't really practiced. He's questionable for week 1. Kenny Galladay's hurt already. he's questionable for week 1. Kadarius Toney, their draft pick, he's questionable. John Ross, good God, is already on IR, which we knew that was coming.
You talked about that when they first picked him up.
When they signed him, I'm like, he's just going from one team's IR to the other. I thought that was a stupid signing. I mean, that guy, he's fast. Woo! He can't catch, and he's always hurt, so who cares? Evan Ingram's hurt. Kyle Rudolph is hurt. Caden Smith, their third-string tight end, is hurt. So, and their fourth-string tight end, Levine Talayo, he's on IR. So who the hell are they going to run out there at tight end? I don't know. Andrew Thomas is questionable for week 1. Ted Larson's on IR. They've already got a bunch of injuries, and they weren't that great to begin with. And that's my worry with the Giants is, if everybody was healthy and everybody was playing, I think they'd be all right. But everyone's not healthy. Everyone's not playing. And I just haven't seen that game where I'm like, oh, God, Daniel Jones has got it. I have to see that game where he takes over and he wins the game himself because of his abilities and his leadership. And, I haven't seen it. I mean, he's shown flashes of being a good quarterback, and I think he has the makeup of a good quarterback. He just hasn't put it all together yet. And until I see him do, I can't believe in him.
Well, we'll see. We'll see. I think this is going to be his time. He has to. I mean, if they have another year like last year, unfortunately, Gettleman will be gone, and I would hate to think that poor Joe Judge, who I think has been making to become a really good coach, would only have a 2-year time here. But, the fact of the matter is, new GM comes in, new GM might want his coach, start fresh all over, start fresh with a new quarterback. So this is really big for the Gettleman Judge teaming together, and it's a very big year for Danny Dimes and Saquon. So, I mean, I just think that
that's a lot of people that it's a big year for.
Yeah. And you know what? If they don't, I'll be wrong. I'll be eating crow. But the fact of the matter is, and like I told you, half of it's with my heart anyways. I know it is. But the fact of the matter is, I got to believe in my team. I got to see. I said a couple weeks ago, it's like, we'll see. They can't afford to stumble out of the blocks. They got to show something immediately against Denver. They got to show something immediately against Washington. I don't want to hear, they got to. I'd like to see 2-0. I'd love to see 2-0 shows me something.
So you're picking you picked Denver to be second in their division, which is a tougher division than this, and you're picking the Giants to win week 1 versus Denver and week 2 at Washington.
I didn't pick Denver to go undefeated.
I know. I said you picked them second.
Yeah, I know.
So you're picking the Giants to beat them?
Yep.
Sunday?
No, I said I want them to beat them.
No, I'm asking you.
Yeah, they need to. They need to.
This Sunday at 4:25, it's actually in New York against Denver. You think that the Giants are going to win, or you think Broncos are going to win?
You see, now I hope the Giants win. If you ask me if they're going to win, I didn't make a pick on them. I want them to win.
I know you want them to win. I'm asking you, who wins that game, Denver or New York?
I'll stick with I'm going with the Giants.
Okay, that's what I wanted to hear. Okay,
I want them to win in the worst way because it shows me something.
No. Hey, they could win that game. We'll see what happens. I don't know. I just went through the list of all the guys that are banged up, and Denver's going to come in ready to go with that defense. So we'll see what happens.
We'll see. Okay, let's go to the north up there. Where we got Green Bay, Aaron for his last go round in Green Bay, supposedly, Chicago, Minnesota, and Detroit.
Yeah, well, I'm taking the Packers. I'm taking the Vikings second because I actually like Zimmer better than that idiot in Chicago. If that guy had any brains in his head, he would start Justin Fields from the beginning. This is like last year when they trotted out Tyrod Taylor out there for the Chargers and sat Justin Herbert. Well, ask Anthony Lynn how that worked out for him since he got fired at the end of the season. So, you want to march out whoever the hell has the most talent and is going to be better for your team in the long run. So why not start Justin Fields, who showed in the preseason that he's damn good and definitely better than the Red Rocket, who couldn't even, throw passes for the Dallas Cowboys last year. So, I think they're making a huge mistake, and I think it's going to be the end of the era for the coach there in Chicago, because I just don't see them. They didn't bring any weapons in for whoever the hell is going to be the quarterback. They didn't fix the offensive line problems, and I think the Vikings are going to take a step forward. And I'm picking Green Bay. I'm picking the Vikings. I'm picking Chicago third. And the only saving grace at all for Chicago is that they get to play Detroit twice.
Well, I tell you, I agree with you totally on the Chicago thing. I mean, it's almost like the guy's self-destructing in front of us as coach. I mean,
he really is. It's like he's trying to get fired.
I mean, he inherited Trubisky. He finally gets a chance to get his quarterback and build around him, and he doesn't do it. And there's just no reason not to. We all know that if anything, Dalton is a stopgap at best. And it's just, the whole thing is, you sit there and everybody goes, what's the difference between Belichick and every other coach in football? Belichick was not afraid to say, this is going to be my quarterback eventually. I might as well have him in now.
Right. Which they didn't do last year in Los Angeles. And right. They started Tyrod Taylor, and then they, threw Justin Herbert out there later. And, they couldn't win the games at the end because the quarterback was still learning the playbook. And, Justin Fields is one of the top selling jerseys in the league, and he's standing on the sidelines. I mean, Andy Dalton couldn't even be the backup. I mean, he didn't do well as the backup last year, and now you're going to run him out there as the starter. Good luck, especially when you're opening up week 1 at the Rams. Enjoy that one.
And I mean, again, to just further the point, it's like, I'm sorry, Belichick's not afraid to make the decision. When the time comes, he makes the decision. He doesn't mind about people sitting there and making fun of him or second guessing him. It's his way of doing it, and that's how he's going to do it. And that's why these other guys fail where he succeeds. And it's just nothing is more evident than that. So I agree with you. I'll give you Minnesota in second place, but I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. I don't like Cousins. I mean, I just don't. I think Zimmer's been there so long that it's time they need another voice up there, and they got to move on. I mean, Jared Goff, it's like Super Bowl to sayonara. The poor guy has now gone to the outpost of the NFL, Detroit, where careers go to die. And unfortunately, he seems like a nice kid and everything, but I don't see anything happening up there. So I don't think there's going to be a wild card coming out of there. But I totally agree with you that Green Bay, it's their division to win, and I totally agree with the situation in Chicago, which is totally mind-boggling.
Yeah, I don't understand.
Down south, we got everybody's favorite, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You got your boy Jameis trying to reclaim his career. You got Atlanta, who I don't know. I mean, I feel sorry for Matt Ryan, because right now he's just playing for record book. How high can you get in the record book so I can't? My career looks even better than it was. And how far can I put my Atlanta records out in front of any quarterback who follows me? I don't see them doing anything down there. And, of course, Carolina, they're just trying to make sure the ghosts don't show up on the field for Sammy Boy.
Yeah, I mean, let's talk about the Falcons. Arthur Smith is their head coach now. And, Derrick Henry got him his job. He looked really good as the offensive coordinator for the Titans, because Derrick Henry ran for 2,000 yards. And they were able to resurrect the career of a cast-off from the Dolphins, because the guy, behind him, everybody was putting 10 guys in the box trying to stop him. So, he got this guy the job. Everything, to be honest, I'm not sold on their starters, and then their backups are even worse. So, Matt Ryan, yeah, he's a good quarterback. I like him. But behind him, you got Felipe Franks and Josh Rosen. Good luck with that. At running back, you got Mike Davis, who I like as a guy and as a player, but I don't really see him as a starting running back. And then their backups are Wayne Gallman and Cordarrelle Patterson. One of them's a wide receiver, and the other one's a practice squad guy. So, I'm not sold on this team. I'm still taking the Saints as my second place team. I'm taking Falcons 3 and Panthers 4.
Okay, we have no problem with that. I totally agree with it. Actually, I think there's no way you can go against that. We're going out west, and this is where there's going to be a lot of discussion here. I like Seattle coming out of here. I told you about that. I think Wilson is the most consistent quarterback in this division, and with the help he's got up there, I think they're going to be fine. And Pete Carroll's a good coach. Plus, they have that 13th man or 12th man up there. No one wants to play in Seattle. I think San Francisco is going into this season with a total quarterback controversy. It's going to hold them back. Matt Stafford is going to be the wild card in this division. Can he be what they think he can be? And because the Rams are a talented team. We'll see what happens there. And Cardinals, I'm still not sure about the Cardinals.
Yeah, me neither. I'm taking the Seahawks as well. I think they are the best team from top to bottom, especially with getting the contract extension done with Dwayne Brown. Plus, I love the addition that no one's talking about, and that's Gerald Everett, the guy that played for the Rams last year and was underutilized in their system, and is now going to be tight end number 1 for the Seahawks, and I expect a big year out of him. I like Chris Carson. I love DK Metcalf. I like their pick of Eskridge, the wide receiver out of Western Michigan. They've still got Tyler Lockett and Freddie Swain. Plus, their defense is improved. Hopefully, the secondary can hold up. They got Trey Flowers and DJ Reed out there, and they picked up Sidney Jones and Trey Brown's on IR, but he should be able to come back in 6 weeks and help that secondary. So I'm taking the Seahawks number 1. I got Rams 2. I got the 49ers 3, and I got the Cardinals 4.
Yeah, I can go along with that. Who do we got coming out now? Who do you have coming out of the playoffs?
In the NFC, I hate saying this, but I've got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the playoffs. I've got the Green Bay Packers in the playoffs. I've got the Cowboys in the playoffs, and I've got the Seahawks in the playoffs.
Are we missing one team there?
And the wild card. I'm going to take another team from the West, so I'll go Rams.
Okay. Well, I'm going with, of course, I said Washington, Green Bay, Tampa Bay, Seattle, Saints, Giants.
I like the Saints pick. I'm telling you, the only reason that I don't have the Saints is they don't get to play at home at least until October. And that's if everything goes right. So you have to remember they have to play Green Bay week 1 in Jacksonville. So, it's not like they're not dealing with enough with all the stuff with their families and their homes or their apartments or whatever for these guys that live and play for the Saints. But now they have to play all these games on the road when they're supposed to be home games. So, you're losing your Hall of Fame quarterback, first ballot Hall of Fame quarterback, and now you've got to play home games in someone else's stadium and not in your dome. And I think that's going to be tough to overcome.
But the thing is, they remember when wasn't it Katrina that they got together and they made their big move from? They've been through. At least the coaching staff, Sean Payton's been through this kind of stuff before. So,
yeah, when they had Drew Brees, but I like Jameis and I think he's good, but he's not the leader that Drew Brees is. That's been pretty evident throughout his career. So
you don't want him back.
I'm just saying that this isn't going to help them. If you think that them having to practice in a different facility and play home games in a different stadium is going to be helpful to them, I would disagree with you.
I don't think it's going to help them, but I think like I said, and I'm not going to dispute that there's going to be some differences. But in a way, it couldn't have happened at a better time. And I'm just saying this because the last year and a half of their lives with COVID and everything else and all the stuff they've been through, these players are kind of used to having their regimen interrupted and moved around and things like that more than any other time in the history of the NFL. So I think if
you think that the Saints are going to beat the Packers in Jacksonville on Sunday?
I hope so, but no, I think Jameis will have a couple interceptions and lose it. But you got to make sure he doesn't go out and get some crab legs. But I just think that it's the time where it's not going to be as much as a disruption as it would have been a couple of years ago when they're so regimented in this is what we do, this is what we do, this is what we do. When the last year, everybody in their life has been thrown into adjusting, and they're a year into adjusting to the new norm, shall we say?
Well, you've got to remember also Michael Thomas is out because he decided to have his foot surgery right before the season started. So their number one receiver and their top receiver over the last 8 years isn't going to be playing. They just cut their number 2 running back in Latavius Murray, and he's out. And they moved on from him because they didn't have the money to pay him, and they had to go out and get another corner because their corners are all banged up. And, I just, Janoris Jenkins is gone. They signed Bradley Roby, but he's suspended, so he can't even play week 1. Ken Crawley, the penciled-in starter, he's questionable. Brian Poole is on IR. They got a lot of problems right now.
I wish I could have flipped on a switch and gone back about a year when you were predicting that the Saints were going to have cap hits this year because of what they're when you looked at their contracts. Because you talked about this last September and said they better win this year because they're not going to be able to bring these players back. It's hysterical how right on you were.
It's true, man. I wasn't saying it just to sound like I know what I'm talking about, but it's they were in a bad cap situation and they just went all in, which I understood. They had a Hall of Fame, one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, and they wanted to have one more run with him, and they gave it their all. It didn't work out, but now they're in big time trouble, and that's why you've seen a lot of guys move on and be shipped out because they can't afford to keep all these guys under the cap based on their situation. And, that's why they're in the predicament that they're in.
All right. Who's our NFC champion? Your NFC championship game.
I'm going to go with the Buccaneers, who I hate, versus the Packers again. I think those are the 2 best teams from top to bottom in the division.
I think Buccaneers, Seahawks.
Okay.
And I do think the Buccaneers are going to get through, and I think it's going to be Buccaneers Bills in the Super Bowl. MVP pick. Just a couple of quick ones. MVP pick.
I'm going Russell Wilson.
I agree with you totally. I'm right there, and I think we'll probably both agree on who's the defensive player of the year.
Who's yours?
Chase Young.
Chase Young. I could go with that. Who is your offensive rookie of the year?
I'm going to say he's going to come off the bench to do it. I think Justin Fields will be the offensive rookie of the year by the end of the year. Whether the coaches, whether he starts by the second, third, or fourth week, he'll come in and he'll make enough of an impression where he will be the offensive rookie of the year.
Well, I hope so. That's who I would like it to win, but I'm actually picking Mac Jones. As much as it pains me, I think he's got it, man. I think he's on a good team, and I think they're going to set him up to have success. And then my defensive rookie of the year is going to be shared between Patrick Surtain and Gregory Rousseau of the Bills.
I like those. I give Surtain a little bit of an advantage for me, but I agree with both of them. We got only a few minutes left, so we got to get to your no doubt picks of the week. Who do we got?
I'm taking the Seattle Seahawks. I know that they're on the road, and a lot of times teams pick against a West Coast team traveling east, but if you go through the record books like I do, in the last 12 games where the Seahawks have had to travel to the East Coast with Pete Carroll as their head coach, they're 11-1. I'm going to go 12-1, and I'm taking the Seahawks over the Colts. And in my second game, I've got the red water pistol and the Bears at the Rams, and I'm taking the Rams because Andy Dalton sucks.
I think those are two good picks, and we'll see how that works out next week. Everybody, thank you for tuning in tonight. Remember, man coverage, Sunday morning, 11 o'clock. They'll be breaking down the NCAAs like they did last week. We'll see what big games we got this weekend. Who's the biggest game? Oregon, Ohio State.
Oregon, Ohio State is a big game for sure. There's also a couple other good games that are on the slate. I think that Oregon, Ohio State is the biggest game, but some people are saying Iowa and Iowa State is the biggest game. We'll see.
We'll see. We'll see if either of those teams will add up. Hey, everybody, have a great weekend. Thank you for tuning in. We'll be back on Monday night to break down what happened in the weekend in the NFL and everything else in sports. And a shout out again to A-Rod. Sorry your heart's so broken, my boy. Talk to you later.
Yeah, I know he was enjoying seeing J-Lo and Ben Affleck in the front row. That had to be fun.
Take it easy, everybody.